The United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees in the Near East has said almost 1.9 million people, nearly 80% of Gaza's population, are estimated to be internally displaced. Meanwhile, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has urged Israeli forces to spare civilians from more suffering and to avoid action that would worsen the catastrophic humanitarian situation in Gaza. Good morning, I'm Abheudaya Shrestha, and these are the headlines of the hour. Hearing on the case against the ban on TikTok to start at the Supreme Court from today. Hearing on Enel's writ on tax evasion also at the Apex Court today. The government urges to adopt cautious measures for possible respiratory ailments likely to be seen in children during winter as the temperatures drop. Humanitarian crisis deepens in Gaza as the Israel-Hamas war continues. Almost 1.9 million people, more than 80% of Gaza's total population, displaced. And Lalitpur City FC to clash against Birganj United at the Nepal Super League today. Opportunity for Lalitpur to climb to the top of the table. Birganj in search for their first win. Hearing on the case against the ban on social media app TikTok is scheduled to start at the Supreme Court from today. More than 10 writs have been filed at the Supreme Court against the government ban on TikTok. Prior to this, the Apex Court had rejected to issue an interim order against the writs filed on the ban on TikTok and issued a hearing date for today by providing priority. Meanwhile, a hearing is also scheduled at the Supreme Court on the writ filed by telecommunications service provider entity Enel against the case of tax evasion of 58 billion rupees. After the large taxpayer office had set the tax at 58 billion rupees, Enel had filed a writ at the Supreme Court 3 years ago. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Pushpakamal Dahal has directed related departments to probe into the sale of 80% shares of telecommunications service provider entity Enel, which was held outside the country. According to the Secretariat of Prime Minister Dahal, he has expressed interest regarding the sale of shares of Enel and has directed for an investigation. It has been understood in relation to the sale of shares of Enel, Prime Minister Dahal has directed for an investigation regarding if legal provisions were violated, existing arrangement for the distribution of shares were not followed, impact on Nepal's telecommunications sector, and foreign investment. Prime Minister Dahal is understood to have issued the directive after the Public Accounts Committee of the Parliament expressed interest regarding the sale of shares of Enel. Meanwhile, the Inland Revenue Department, Office of the Company Registrar, and the Nepal Telecommunication Authority have begun investigating the matter. It has been learnt that investigations are underway regarding the legitimacy of the sale of shares by ignoring the regulating authority, reasons for the same, and assessment of the share value. The Inland Revenue Department has begun probe regarding the income tax to be paid by the company, its transactions, and the change in ownership. Questions have surfaced regarding the legitimacy of the sale of 80% of shares by Malaysian company Axiata Group to Spectralite, which was registered a month ago in the United Kingdom. Government officials have also raised suspicion on the sale of shares of Enel for 6.65 billion rupees. Only 8 years ago, Axiata had purchased the same volume of shares from Telia Sonera at 143 billion rupees. Public life has been affected in high, hilly and Himalayan regions following the drastic dip in mercury. According to the Meteorological Forecasting Division, the development of a storm on the Bay of Bengal has had a partial effect in eastern Nepal. The division says some places of the hilly regions of Koshi, Bagmati and Gandaki provinces may receive rainfall today. The division has also forecasted snowfall in high, hilly and Himalayan regions today. According to the Meteorological Forecasting Division, temperatures throughout the country will drop for the next 3 days due to light rain and snowfall. The division has also urged everyone to adopt caution and be safe from the chilly weather condition. Daily lives of the survivors of the Jajarkot earthquake have grown further tense following the drop in temperature. The higher region of Barekot, the epicenter of the November 3 Jajarkot earthquake, has witnessed snowfall as well. Light rainfall yesterday and the consequent dip in mercury has added further plight to the survivors who have been taking refuge against makeshift shelters. Despite the beginning of the procedure for the first installment of the amount insured by the government for the construction of temporary shelters, most survivors are still living under temporary shelters. Senior citizens, those with long-term illness, women and children have been worst affected by the dip in mercury. Those who survived the earthquake are worried about the winter. Health workers have said that the rain has added further plight for the earthquake survivors. They have urged everyone to take proper care as the dip in mercury could cause pneumonia and typhoid, among other diseases. The government has said that it has implemented cautious measures for possible respiratory ailments likely to be seen in children during winter. A few weeks ago, many children in northern China reported respiratory ailments. The Epidemiology and Disease Control Division has said that the government has implemented cautious measures to avoid such a situation in the country. The division has also directed hospitals and laboratories to report unexpected rise in the number of respiratory ailments. Doctors have said that respiratory ailments can be seen because of various viruses. The World Health Organization has said that respiratory ailments are likely among children. However, it has not clarified about the high-risk age group. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has requested the Russian government to repatriate the bodies of 6 Nepali nationals who were killed while serving for the Russian military and provide compensation to their families. Issuing a press statement yesterday and confirming the death of 6 Nepali nationals, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs urged the Russian government not to recruit Nepali nationals into the Russian military and to immediately repatriate those who are currently serving there. The ministry confirmed the death of 6 Nepali nationals that served in the Russian security force and identified them as Sandeep Thapalia of Gorkha, Rupak Karki of Kapilvastu, Dewan Rai of Kaski, Syangzaz Pitam Karki, Rajkumar Rokka of Dolkha, and Ilam's Gangaraj Mokhtan. Although the death of 4 Nepali nationals associated with the Russian military was earlier made public, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs had not issued an official statement. Through yesterday's press statement, the ministry also informed that diplomatic efforts were ongoing for the repatriation of Vivek Khatri, who has been held hostage in the Russia-Ukraine war. Except for those Nepali nationals traveling to Russia on government work, business, or the Russian government's scholarship programs, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has appealed to others to obtain a no-objection letter from the ministry's Department of Consular Services before heading to Russia. The ministry has also urged Nepali citizens not to be lured into being recruited in the military of war-torn nations on the basis of misinformation. Nepal had agreed with only India and the United Kingdom for Nepali citizens to be recruited into their military services. Meanwhile, the Foreign Ministry has sent a letter to the Russian government to immediately repatriate Nepali citizens who have been recruited into the Russian military. It has been estimated that at least 500 Nepali nationals have been recruited by the Russian military. The Nepal government has also requested the Russian government not to recruit Nepali citizens into the Russian military. The Kathmandu District Court has issued an arrest warrant in the name of 4 leaders, including Nepal Communist Party General Secretary Netra Bikram Chand. The Kathmandu District Court has issued a 35-day arrest warrant against Nepal Communist Party General Secretary Chand, Politburo member Kharga Bahadur BK, Maila Lama, and Raju Karki for crime against the state. The case against these individuals was filed on 26th of September 2019. They have also been alleged of possession of arms and ammunitions. Yesterday's Secretariat meeting of CPN Unified Socialists held to decide a new date for the party's General Convention ended inconclusively. The 7-hour meeting failed to reach a conclusion because of lack of consensus between party chairperson Madhav Kumar Nepal and leader Jhalanath Khanal regarding a date for the General Convention. The mega conference, which previously was slated for 28th of January to 1st of February, was postponed, citing the election of the National Assembly. However, Nepal and Khanal are divided on a new date for the General Convention because of the 70-year age limit provisioned by the party statute. If the convention is delayed, Kanal cannot contest for party chairperson and has therefore called for holding the convention before mid-April. At the meeting, Deputy Chairperson of the party, Rajendra Pandey, proposed holding the General Convention on 16th of May. Meanwhile, the meeting has decided to register the party for the National Assembly election scheduled for 25th of January. Despite the lapse of 16 years since the announcement, the Non-Resident Nepali Association has failed in bringing in 10 billion rupees to Nepal. The NRNA had expressed commitment of instituting a development fund to invest in businesses and infrastructures. However, policy-level complications have created hurdles in this regard. In the conference of 2007, the NRNA had announced of bringing in $100 million in investment. However, the NRNA remained indifferent to this commitment for a long period of time. In 2019, the NRNA made another commitment of bringing in 10 billion rupees, after which company registration and works related to revision of policies had begun. Based on the existing arrangements, shares cannot be issued in foreign currencies. There is no provision for non-residential Nepalese to purchase such shares. Therefore, works have been expedited for amendment of regulations to generate 10 billion rupees by issuing shares. Only the non-resident Nepalese will be eligible for these shares, and the trade of such shares would be carried out in dollars. The registration of a company for this purpose has completed, and the company is currently developing a software. After completion of the software, non-resident Nepalese will be required to create a bank account and a share account. The fund will include 9.5 billion rupees of the non-resident Nepalese and 500 million of the government of Nepal. This fund will then be invested in sectors including business and industries, transport and infrastructures. A total of 4 billion rupees has been pledged for the fund so far, while 350 million rupees has already been received. It's time now for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion.
Public Pulse.
Here's the question. Why has Non-Resident Nepali Association not been able to bring in investment announced 16 years ago? Your options are A, procedural complication, B, lack of investment environment, and C, indifferent NRNs. The voting is on. Type NEWS, select your option A, B, or C, and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. In our Public Voice segment, we had asked people in several provinces about the status of physical infrastructures of government schools in their local levels. Let's take a look at what they had to say.
टिनका टहराहरूमा विशेष गरी गर्मीको बेला चाहिँ अलि बढी गर्मी हुने र विद्यार्थी बसेर पढ्न चाहिँ अलि नसकिने अवस्था चाहिँ रहेको छ।
क्लासको टावर अझ अलि फ्र्याकिलो बनाउनु पर्यो।
पूर्वाधारको समस्या त होइन, तर त्यसलाई अलिकति व्यवस्थित व्यवस्थापन गर्नलाई चाहिँ समस्या भएकै हो।
होल पालिका हेर्ने भने भौतिक संरचनाहरू एकदम सरकारी विद्यालयहरूको पनि राम्रो छ।
कुनै स्कुल भौतिक संरचना हुन सकेका छैनन्। सबै स्कुललाई एक लेभलले बनाएर लानु पर्यो।
कतिपय घरहरू तपाईको कंक्रिटका छन् भने कतिपय चाहिँ टिनका छैन, वरिपरि वालहरू लगाएको छ।
राम्रै छ यो भौतिक संरचनाहरू।
सबै राम्रो छ, सजिलो छ पढ्न लेख्न, अनि खानेपानी सबै राम्रो छ, टोयलेट सबै राम्रो छ।
भवनहरू चाहिँ सुविधा सम्पन्न भए पनि अतिरिक्त क्रियाकलापका लागि चाहिँ खेल मैदानहरू, अब त्यो प्रशिक्षकहरू त्यस्तो चाहिँ छैन।
It's time now for the international update. The United Nations top humanitarian relief coordinator, Martin Griffiths, said the situation has been getting more threatening in the Gaza Strip. A UN agency said almost 1.9 million people, more than 80% of Gaza's total population, have now been displaced. According to Israeli officials, around 180 international humanitarian aid trucks were sent to the Rafah crossing to go into Gaza yesterday. The volume of aid is similar to the amounts Gaza was receiving during the now expired truce that lasted 7 days. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres urged Israeli forces to spare civilians from more suffering and to avoid action that would worsen the catastrophic humanitarian situation in Gaza. Israeli military said its airstrikes hit about 200 targets in Gaza yesterday, a day after Israel expanded ground operations to the south of the enclave. Meanwhile, American National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan cited ongoing intensive discussions involving the U.S., Israel, Qatar, and Egypt about how to best get traction on a strategy that will get all the hostages out. A senior administration official said it appears unlikely that the Biden administration would be able to negotiate separately for the release of Americans. According to the Hamas-controlled health ministry, more than 15,800 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli attacks since 7th of October, while Israel has lost more than 1,200 lives.
Sports news.
Lalitpur City FC are clashing against Birganj United at the Nepal Super League today. The match at the capital's Dasrat Stadium in Tripureshwar is scheduled to kick off at 5 p.m. Lalitpur City, undefeated at the ongoing league tournament, are playing their fourth match. Lalitpur are in the second spot of the league table with 5 points. Lalitpur, led by Ananta Tamang, are looking for a win today after securing 3 consecutive draws. They played goalless draws against Pokhara Thunders and Dhangari FC in their last 2 matches. Meanwhile, it's the third match for Birganj today at the ongoing tournament. Birganj, the only team without any points, are at the bottom of the league table. Birganj lost their first match 2-0 against Dhangari FC. They were also blanked 2-0 by Chitwan FC in their second match. Birganj will look to register a win today to avoid 3 consecutive losses at the tournament. If Lalitpur City secure a win today, they will have the opportunity to climb to the top of the points table, passing Dhangari, who lead the league table with 7 points. That's all for the moment. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.